I tell people all the time, like, I can't want it more than you.
Oh, I say that.
I can't want it more than the artist or the manager. So
Right.
if you catch yourself on like, I really want this, but you're not getting that same level of excitement from, the manager or whatever the case may be, like, there's only so much you can do.
You've always been super cool under pressure, like always like very calm.
Mm-hmm.
How did you develop that?
So I would say one of the turning points for me, it was one of the toughest moments of my life, my career, excuse me, was when I was transitioning out of journalism. And I went from, again, I was 23 covering the Red Sox, doing TV on top of the world, and actively deciding to change careers and move to PR. But in order to do that, I had to move from Boston back to Jersey. I was living in my boy's attic. I'm an only child. My parents, were living in Colombia. They had moved, once I got in my first job. So I'm like, I'm on my own, right? So I'm living off of like my savings and kind of like figuring, shit out. And I'm trying to apply to these jobs in this new career that I have no experience in. And it was a really tough time because like I was always a straight A student, super smart, super everything on point. And it was one of the first times where I just lost my swag in the sense of things weren't working out for me. I'm applying to these jobs. Nothing's coming my way. I wasn't in the best place.
Mm-hmm.
And it finally came to the point where, like, I remember one day where I would just apply to as many jobs as I could, and I'm just feeling exasperated. I'm living in my boy's attic. And finally, I'm like, you know what? This is where I went back to that concept. I focus on the things I can control, and that's it. And I'm like, you know what? As long as I did everything in my power in this current moment to put myself in the best position for tomorrow, I can live with the results, good or bad. And it was kind of just like this eureka moment where I'm just kind of like, I applied to a bunch of these jobs. Hopefully something comes, but I can lay my head on my pillow tonight knowing I did everything I could with all the information and the power I had today to put myself in the best position for tomorrow. And that just changed the way I viewed the world because for the longest time, I always wanted to control. Like, I always wanted to control everything. And I think that it's helpful in business, but sometimes it can also be to your detriment. And it was to that part where I'm realizing, you know what? Like, you can't always keep trying to control the outcome and trying to get things you want. Like, obviously, to the best of your abilities, right? Sure. That's still part of the job. You're controlling people's images as a publicist, but also knowing that with the information I had, everything at the moment, I made the best decision I could with everything I had at that moment. I could live with the results. It's where if there was a careless mistake or something where I'm like, well, damn, I deserve that L on that one. You know what I mean? And I take pride in saying I don't usually make careless mistakes. Mistakes are going to be part of life in general. But I think that's what's kind of just shaped my view of world, of life. And just that approach has always kind of just, moved into how I handle my business. It's like, all right, like this is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
I live with the result and I keep it moving. And, even with as an entrepreneur, like last week, I remember it was like one morning, it was 8:30 a.m. and it's like there was already 3 things with 3 different clients going like completely awry. This was not a good morning.
Always.
Right?
Everything will hit at once.
Of course, hit at the same time. And it's just being able to compartmentalize and not let that deter you, and realizing, you know what? Well, shit, it's 8:20, so the day can get better from here. You know what I mean? As opposed to like some people be like, shit, it's gonna be a long day. Like, okay, all right, like let me just think through this. All right, these problems suck. Let me deal with it. But that doesn't mean that a couple hours later, the fortune can't turn around.
Yeah.
So it's just being able to compartmentalize, which I think is a really, really big key of just life as a whole, but even as an entrepreneur, is making sure because. As a publicist and as a business owner, you're also carrying the problems of everybody on your back.
I was going to say that. Yeah, right? Exactly. So you got to be even killed.
Of course. So it's like, not only are you handling your clients' problems, you're handling your employees' problems. And not to mention, obviously, in your personal life from those loved ones. So it's just like being able to be very mentally tough and make sure you compartmentalize and pick and choose. And I always like to tell my team all the time, like, this is not a today problem. This is a tomorrow problem. We'll deal with that tomorrow. Still a problem, just not a today problem.
Right. I love that you talked about that and brought that up, because as an entrepreneur, I don't want people to get the misconception that you're doing this all by yourself. You have a team. Talk to me a little bit about your team. How big is your team? What are the different departments and all that?
Absolutely. So, have 6 employees at the moment. So obviously have some senior leaders with me, have some entry-level positions, and have some people in between as well.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a little break, because if you're listening and thinking, fuck, I could really use some guidance right now, and you're serious about building your career in the music industry, I'm now offering private strategy sessions. These are fully personalized, just you and me tackling whatever you need in your career. With over 16 years of experience working with artists, managers, and brands, I can help you map out your next moves. Now, whether that's structuring your team, scaling your brand, navigating the industry, even figuring out what steps to take, whether to go to a distributor or to a record label and figuring out what are the best deal points, I can help you with your career with where you're at. You can now book a one-on-one with me through my Calendly, and you can find the link in the description. Now let's get back to the pod.
Obviously, one of the senior leaders that works with me, has worked with me for, 7 years. So, Chantel's, she's somebody that, it's when you bring somebody who knows you already, that helps the foundation with your company, right?
Yeah.
And then, obviously just been bringing in different people, along the way. We have Alexis, who's another senior lead that we brought in, probably a year and a half ago as well. And, it's about just trusting your senior leaders to then be able to also put the rest of your team, empower them and put them in positions to succeed, right? And obviously it comes with a lot of trust. So it's one of those things where it's like, like anything, in the same way when you're cultivating that trust with your clients, it's cultivating that with your team and making sure that, you have very transparent dialogue with your team. Like one of the things I like to say is like, I like to foster, an atmosphere of transparency. Like I don't want to, be in the situation where if you got a problem, if you're upset, you feel bogged down. How can I fix a problem if I don't know about it? I tell them that all the time. Like, if there's some type of issue, whether it's with your workload, whether the way I deliver something with a client, whatever the case may be, tell me. Like, we all adults, right? I encourage transparent conversation because a lot of people, for whatever reason, just, don't like to have tough conversations.
And you know what the thing is with that as well is that, like, it doesn't mean that you have to have the conversation right away because sometimes the emotions might be too high. Right? If there's some issues that you have with somebody and depending on the personality, they might be really heated.
Yeah.
Take a day or two, then come back and have the conversation. Because if you're really upset and you say something crazy, you said something crazy, that changes the course of the direction of the relationship, no matter what.
For sure.
So it's always important, it doesn't have to be confrontational. It can be a conversation to find a solution or a trade-off, right? Instead of feeling sour about a certain way that something was handled in the work environment, you figure out how to be able to course correct.
Right.
But take a moment.
Yeah. Well, one thing you brought up that's really interesting is, well, not interesting, but it's something I adhere to that's a strong point, is for some people that strategy may work and other people, they may want it off the rip, and making sure you adjust to your personnel and adjust to the clients and the people you work with. Like there's a lot of, I think in another world, I joke, but it's the truth. In another world, I would love to have been a psychologist because I love the psychology of people, right? In the sense of like, hey, what may work with you, right, may be different than, maybe work with the producer over here, right?
Yeah.
And it's just making sure I can tailor my message accordingly to that audience. So I take that approach not only with my team members, where like, hey, maybe one person can deal with the blunt discussion while the other one may need to wait a couple of days to talk through something. But even with my clients, right? Or like the clients, you can't treat a E40, the same way you treat a Too Short, right? You can't treat, a Drewski, the same way, you do a Flauget, whatever the case may be, and making sure like you tailor your approach to everybody. So that way is like knowing what their wants and desires and how they like to communicate. Some people are more phone calls, other maybe more texts, you know what I mean? But other like other ones can take more of the straight message, whereas the other one maybe it's more of a team conversation where you know what I mean, where they can receive the message a little bit more. Like, so it's just making sure.
You got to figure out. Yeah. It's true. You got to figure out who you're dealing with and working with, right?
Yeah.
Really, I got the psychiatrist vibe, so that's how I was just giving you my trauma. I got to chill a couple of days. It works for me, to be honest with you. But I've also gotten to a point in my career, I'm in my 18th year in this business, entertainment business.
Right.
And I've been an entrepreneur for so many years. I built multiple companies that generated millions in revenue. And I'm like, I realize, like at this point, it is like I can't get as I can't. The leader that I am today is a leader with a lot more patience than I had prior to.
Right.
And if there is something that is frustrating me, sometimes it truly, for me, it's a thing where it's like if something is really getting at me, it's because it's a reoccurring theme,
right?
And I can't fix it. So then if I get upset about something, then I'll step away from the conversation, revisit it afterwards.
Right.
But you're right. Not everybody is like that.
Yeah.
You have to be able to know who you're dealing with, because some people will take offense to that.
For sure. Like, I'm the type of person, I like to confront things head on. I usually like to do it quicker than later. But also,
of course.
You can't take, but you can't take that
emotion.
but you can't take that approach with everybody, for sure, right? Because then some people were just like, yo, it's business. Some people may not be able to take that off the bat. So it's exactly that. I think that's the beauty of, again, going to the psychology of all of us as different human beings. And I think that's, what enables us to be able to move in any industry. It's not just entertainment, right? But I think especially with the caliber of people we deal with and the amounts of people, because it's not just the personalities. You're talking about also just the managers as well, right? Because you got the managers who are involved, right? And how do you get everybody on the team to be able to like also work together to help you on something? So just being mindful of that. I think that's just one of the things I especially when I'm looking to hire people, the big thing I look for a lot is like, do you know how to read the room? Are you capable of reading the room?
Right.
Because you can't fully teach that skill, right? And the people who have that are really ones that's like, all right, at the very least, that's part of the battle that I know I can leave you alone, and you'd be able to navigate some of the unspoken body language of who may be in a good place to do something, who may be not in the best place for an interview or for whatever, a prep briefing conversation, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Okay, but if you can try and teach that, how can you read the room?
I mean, I think it's studying body language. I think a lot of people, when you talk about communication,
Tonality,
they just they think about the words, right? But then I think the other thing is also going back to what we discussed earlier, being an active listener. Sometimes it's how somebody says something.
Yeah.
Do they say it with that bass in their voice? Do they say it as an It's all these little nuances that you really, really have to. And if as you cultivate relationship with your clients, with your managers, that's cool versus like, yeah, is different, right? The person may be like, oh, maybe it's a yes, where I take that as like, maybe that's like not a full yes, that's like a kind of like a yes with a couple question marks.
I might have to circle back.
Exactly, right? So being able to, I think it's a couple ways of just being an active listener.
Yeah.
And making sure, study the tonality of how a specific message is delivered. It can be literally 1 or 2 words, but the way it's delivered can be a big difference versus how, getting somebody to react to a certain way, selling an interview idea or pitching somebody an idea to do something, whether it's received well or not. The other thing is body language. And you can even tell that on a Zoom. You can't do it as well as in person, obviously.
Yeah.
But just making sure you're also studying like how tuned in is this person to this idea, what's the level of eye contact looking like when you're in person, what is their body language telling you? Are you locked in with me? Or are you kind of giving me the, you're just looking around it. And all these little things are also going to help you be able to read the room and figure out what's the right time and place to have a conversation with your client. If you want to bring a couple interview opportunities and talk to them, do you see, are they distracted? Are they overwhelmed? Or are they just chilling and peaceful? And those are that kind of helps you determine whether this is a good time or not to be able to present something to your client or not.
I remember doing a sales job a long time ago, and I did it for 5 years. And the one thing they taught you off the rip was that in communication, you're only taking in 7% of the words.
Correct.
The majority of it is body language, and second is tonality.
Yeah.
Right? So I hear you on that. That's actually super important. You talk about managers, and you know what? There's a lot of managers out here who act more like a superstar than they're artists.
Sure.
Talk to me about like when it's been easy to deal with a manager versus not. Like, what are the things that you should be doing? Because the manager publicist relationship is
critical.
That's a critical one.
Yeah.
Talk to me a bit about what success looks like for that relationship.
I mean, I think it's like any relationship. I study them as much as they should be studying me, right?
Yeah.
And it's figuring out what are the strengths and weaknesses of this particular individual. How is the best way to communicate? Can you communicate with them on the phone? Or are they more of a texter and things like that? There's been like a manager or two in the past for old clients that we worked with that, they wanted to be the superstar. And I learned very quickly this is not going to go far because you're prioritizing your own needs over the individual's needs, over the client's needs. This is not going to go far. Like, we'd still kind of rock it out, but it was just times where it was like,
you see where it's going.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's just like when the manager's trying to crash the interview and be part of it with said client, it's like, you know what I mean? So
Oh, you've seen that before.
I've seen that. Yeah, you know, it's very rare, but I'm part of those, and it's an absolute headache. And that's when you know that, you know, it's really the most successful relationships with managers are the ones that, again, are also good listeners, that are open-minded, and that, you know, are prioritizing the client's needs over their own. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
the client being the artist,
correct,
in this case.
correct. Yeah, or the talent, you know, the
talent,
comedian, you know, whatever the case may be. And I think that's part of it, is because, you know, when you see, you know, I tell people all the time, like, I can't want it more than you.
Oh, I say that.
I can't want it more than the artist or the manager. So if you catch yourself on, like, I really want this, but you're not getting that same level of excitement from, you know, the manager or whatever the case may be, like, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, I've been fortunate that, again, a lot of the managers we work with for our clients, like, we have such very strong, you know, candid, like, discussions, like, through the good and through the bad, that, like, we can, again, I'm a straight shooter. So, like, and, you know, you can't really take a lot of things personally, but it goes both ways too. So being able to, like, if I have, you know, some level of feedback I want to give you, at least, you know, hear me out. Just let me rock. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm doing it. If I'm giving it, it's also to be able to, you know, for the greater good of the artist. And, you know, for me as well, right?
Yeah,
I'm always open to feedback. I'm always open to learning and evolving. You know what I mean? By all means, I'm not, you know, I'm not perfect, you know what I mean? So there's always ways we can sharpen our operations. My thing is, as long as we can just be straight up with one another across the board, those are the best relationships. Like, you know what I mean?
So when it comes to you said that you can't want it more than the artist. And that happens a lot in this business.
For sure.
Right? Yo, how do you actually stop yourself from, like, you see a artist and a team, and, like, I really want to work with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like there's this feeling that I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna go well, but I really fuck with this artist, and I can see them going to another level if they just change a couple of things. How do you actually stop yourself from working with that artist?
Well, you have to do your research, right? So every time, you know, and this is just advice on game in general, but when a prospective client comes your way, you have a conversation. A lot of people think, like, you're the only one on the receiving end of, like, yo, they're vetting me. Nah, I'm vetting you too. You know what I mean? This is a two-way street. I do my homework on you, and I make my calls around the industry. How is this individual to work with? How is this management team to work with? Right? So it's like, as we all should, right? We should always be doing our homework anytime you're coming into any meeting with anybody.
Yeah.
So there's been times where, like, I've turned away, you know, clients that were, you know, massive names, but I heard that they were just very difficult to work with, and, you know, they didn't have the proper operations team, you know, in place. And my thing is just, like, making sure it has to be about timing, but it has to be about a collaborative effort and being able to have, again, that level of transparent dialogue and communication. So that's just any big piece of advice for anyone, whether you're a publicist, marketer, whomever, and you're getting, you know, prospective business your way. You know, do your homework on that team too, right? And not just in the music industry. This is any industry. Do your homework on that prospective client. Is it gonna match the synergy, right? Is it something where it can work? And the other thing you can try to structure is just sometimes, like, hey, maybe let's test it out for a 3-month period,
right?
And let's see how this works, right? And then let's do the initial agreement for 3 months, and we see how it is. And if it's a fit, cool. And if not, all good. We keep it moving, and at least that way, you know, you guys have been able to at least try it and see if that relationship, you know, can develop and flourish. So,
yeah. See,
you
if
know,
the develop and flourish that's where, like, you really start to get in line with each other and figure things out, and it starts to go into a beautiful relationship.
Yeah.